Excellency, education. Education, if I have to quote the former president of Timor Leste, and also the Nobel Peace Prize, he mentioned recipient. He mentioned that education can be a force for preventing a conflict, reconstructing countries after conflict, and building peace. Mm-hmm. So he mentioned that education is very important. Because the new government, especially Aung San Suu Kyi, she'll have a big agenda on to educate our younger generation. Mm-hmm. And also, of course, she's very much aware of the health as well as. When I study about the Canada, I still remember one, that was some time ago, EJ Canada College. They came here and they said, and I met some of those guys there, and then they are very much educated. And EJ means English Journey. EJ Canada College. It's very, I forgot the name, the place where they are. But anyway, and I understand that I've studied about Australia and the education and British education. Canada is one of the best in the world.
Yeah, very good.
Yes, so, Excellency, how can you, Canada assist in realizing, to education, to improve the education system in this country? Very important.
Okay. That's a really tough question.
Because, Excellency, yes, it's a tough question. Because, Excellency, because if you look at the younger generation, mm-hmm. they want to learn, mm-hmm. they want to be educated, mm-hmm. because they want to catch up with the neighboring emerging economies.
Yes.
Without education, they cannot reach to that point. Yep. And I know that Aung San Suu Kyi is quite aware of that. Mm-hmm. So, Canada, how can you help us?
Right. A complete rebuilding of the education system is needed here. Everybody acknowledges that, from elementary through secondary through the tertiary system. And it's going to be a long process because especially the tertiary sector, the university sector was in such bad shape for such a long time. Yeah, such a
bad shape, yeah.
Right. Again, this is probably an area where Canada can only make a tiny dent. And I've got to say that actually this is an area where Canada is a latecomer and is still quite far behind, because we have very few Myanmar students in Canadian universities. Our hope is that that'll very slowly change now because it's much easier to get visas. That's actually that's been the thing that's been holding Canada back for the last 2 or 3 years. Yes. Is you used to have to go to Bangkok to get a visa. Yes. Now we have a visa office here, and not here in the embassy. It's in Prime Hill, which is up.
Okay, Prime Hill, yeah.
Prime Hill, yes. So very, very convenient.
Very convenient.
And you don't have to go to Bangkok anymore. You can apply there. It still takes a couple of weeks to get a visa, but it's much better than having to travel to another country. So
I hope the British Embassy will follow that.
Actually, I should say, wow, maybe there are competitors, the British and the Australians, but the three of us now have a joint, we all have a visa facility together in Prime Hill.
Really?
Yeah, so it's one office with 3 windows. You have it's a different visa for each country.
Especially the students must be very happy.
Students are very happy because it was very, very onerous to have to go to another country. Yeah. So our hope is that there will be a few more students going to Canada, but there's a couple of other areas that I'm looking at. One is that there are a number of Canadian universities that are very interested in institutional cooperation, particularly University of British Columbia, which is in Vancouver, University of Toronto, Canada's biggest university. That's where I went to university. And also Simon Fraser, which is a smaller but very good university in Vancouver. They've been working with Yangon University on environmental management, water management issues. Good, so again, fairly targeted. But I think over the course of the next year, you'll see some more institutional cooperation like that. One other thing which I think is which is a possibility, is that maybe some help with things like curriculum development.
Yes.
Because if you look at the PISA study, P-I-S-A, which is it's a study of high school achievement in about 40 countries around the world. The high school students that consistently get the best scores, it's not so surprising. It's usually Singapore, Taiwan, and then the next tier down is Canada's usually about number 5 out of 40. Consistently at near the very, very top of the rankings. And the other thing which is notable is the consistency of Canadian education. You don't have the super elite schools and bad schools. That there's a very strong, uniform, high quality of education. So maybe there's something that we could do there in terms of helping with curriculum development, teacher training, those types of issues. So that's something that we're looking into.
I'm very positive that your young Prime Minister who have an education background will be very happy to help.
He was a high school teacher.
Yeah, I know, I heard about that. Yeah.
This is the thing which is a lot of people find very remarkable about our Prime Minister is that although his father was the Prime Minister, he was quite intent on leading a very kind of normal life. You know, he didn't stay in the capital. He left for Vancouver. He was he liked to go snowboarding and skiing, and he taught high school and had kind of the a typical life of a 20 to 30-year-old Canadian trying to kind of explore, find himself. And he came, he wasn't kind of groomed his whole life to be Prime Minister. So he has a very interesting story.
I have one about your young Prime Minister. His activities you mentioned, and the migrants from other countries are looking. Hey, who is that? Oh, he's the Prime Minister of new Prime Minister of Canada. Okay, let's move there. That he said. I read that. I read that. Let's go there. Let's move there because they like him. By looking at his activities.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And Canada's a very welcoming country though too. So we have. It's a country that's been built on immigration, and there's a very broad. Canada has a very broad consensus that immigration is a positive thing.
Excellency, when you talk about your Prime Minister, the young Prime Minister, Justin. My pronunciation be wrong?
Trudeau.
Trudeau.
Yeah.
Like father, like son. And do you have any plan? Because the younger generation will be very much happy to see him because do you have any plan for him to visit here? The younger generation would love to meet him. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't make those plans. He makes the plans.
But please, if he visit here, then younger generation, he can encourage because he's been going around in Canada, not in the big city, but going around and making friends with younger and older.
And I think he's been if you talk about the youth, he's been a positive force in getting youth more involved in politics, narrowly, but also thinking more about political, social, environmental issues, and that's something that Myanmar needs as well. Is the youth to be very active and engaged in helping to build the country. So I would love to see him visit, and I would love to organize a visit for him here.
Please do that, Excellency. When I was young, I looked at the movies and I saw. It's really envying me. I'd love to see that. The Canadian, colorful mounted police. Mounted police. I love that in the movies, and also, I dream at that time when I was young. I dream of that. I would like to see. And then they're very tough, and horses are very big. And the country, our country, Myanmar is, the law and order is very important to develop the country. Yeah. And of course, the police force can play an important role for the safety and security of the people in the country. You will be quite aware that the EU is helping us to be international standard of our police. So because this mounted police it is a worldwide well known. So I'm sure that your police can come here and help us in educating our police of the security and law and order and so on and so forth. Please.
Okay, that's a very good idea. It's also an idea I've heard from very senior people in your administration. Canada's done a lot of work in police training around the world, in Haiti, for example, many countries. And it is usually the RCMP, although they usually don't ride horses and have the big hat and the red shirt. They only wear that on formal occasions.
Yes.
They do still exist, and they're the police force in much of Canada. I think, again, if I was going to pick a niche, maybe the niche I would pick would be community policing. How do you police communities where perhaps the police and the population are of different ethnic,
yes.
religious, whatever group, or how when polices are of mixed nationality, or when the communities are mixed, how do you deal with those slightly more complicated and potentially volatile
yes.
situations? Maybe that's something that Canada could offer here. There are many things that I think we could do. So again, my problem here is always prioritizing. Given that we have an office of a dozen people, what do we have the time and the energy and the money for? But that's certainly something that I would put on the agenda for the next year or two.
Good, very good. Excellency, please do not forget about because this country is an agriculture-based country, you know very well. And then once we were called the rice bowl of Asia, and we are proud of that. But now, because I don't say very poor, but we do not concentrate too much on the research and development, because we have years in research, and then where we do have in those days we'll have a Philippine ARI, and we have research cooperation. And another thing is, Excellency, that the farmers I don't blame the farmers, because they are not very much educated, and the way they use the fertilizers and all the agrochemicals, it's not proper, So this is the area, because even the Canada, they call it the agriculture house,
yes.
In the world. Canada is very much advanced. And then we'll have similarities like beans and pulses.
That's right.
Beans and pulses. You have also been
Yes,
you're very
yes.
successful in beans and pulses.
Yes.
One of our important foreign exchange is beans and pulses, but we need to learn from you.
Yes.
We need to have good variety of seeds.
So you've done very good research here, because again, this is very often if you talk to average Myanmar people, they think, oh, Canada, it's such a different country, we don't share anything. But actually, the biggest pulse and lentil exporter in the world is Canada, by a wide margin.
Yes.
And then Myanmar is usually number 2 or 3, depending on what the year is. So.
Yes.
There's a lot of, and I think Canada obviously has a lot of land, but one of Canada's other advantages is more expertise in things like storage, transportation, marketing, and so on. And those are skills that I think could be easily transferred.
Yes.
So if I didn't have the job as an ambassador, maybe I would think about going into that business, because I think that's an area where there's a lot of opportunity for improvement of Myanmar's output per unit of land, but also the post-harvest. The post-harvest is the period where a lot of the losses occur, and there's a lot of improvement that can be made, I think, fairly easily. So maybe that's my post-ambassadorial job.
I still remember, when the American ambassador, Derek Mitchell, he went to Rakhine State for when the flood,
Yes.
At that time he went there with the the US aid with seeds,
Yes.
And then he threw seeds at the paddy field and then he said to the farmer there, well, after my retirement, I don't have to look for a job. I'll come and become a farmer here. He said like that, But anyway,
I'll tell you, farming is a very, very hard job. I could never do it. Maybe I can do the marketing. That's the only thing I could do.
Excellency, when you talk about agriculture and so on and so forth, health also is very important, And I'm very happy and very proud that your young Prime Minister recently pledges $785 million to fight HIV,
Yes.
TB, and malaria globally,
Yes.
and join hands with Bill and Melinda Gates for
Yes.
that fight.
Yes.
So, please tell, if you have a chance to talk with your Prime Minister, please do not because this country is I would rather say that malaria it's a prone country. You know, malaria is so dreadful. You know, and of course HIV and TB is also. But the government is doing very well to eradicate TB. But malaria is very difficult. So please tell your Prime Minister to help this country in health, where our leader Aung San Suu Kyi is very much aware of. Health is very important. One of the priorities. Please,
let me give you the big picture and the small picture. The big picture is our government is very, one of its priorities is to engage more actively with the United Nations system.
Yes.
Canada is, since the founding of the UN, it's been a very committed multilateralist and participated in many UN activities, from peacekeeping to all of the social and economic activities. We drifted away from that a little bit over the past decade, but now we're certainly back. And the announcement by the Prime Minister was definitely trying to make a point that we are re-engaging and upping our commitment to the UN system in a very big way. Mm-hmm. We haven't been engaged in health activities here. Okay. Again, there's many things we can do. Limited amount of time and energy. I have to say that personally, I think that's where the biggest gains are to be made. If I had to prioritize, I would say health is really a key sector.
Yes.
Because Myanmar's health indicators are unusually bad.
Yes.
For the level of development. The health indicators are much worse than neighboring countries, particularly things like children's health, nutrition problems for children,
yes.
Newborn health.
Yes.
Those are areas that's an